Hey, Doug, you got to take the music down. I'm hearing like it's very loud.
How about that? How about that?
There we go. I could barely hear you on that intro. I know my name, but I could barely hear you. And I got my Giants football here because although there's been a lot of news in the New York press and the national press about Aaron Rodgers saying he told Pat McAfee yesterday on his podcast, I don't know, I guess Aaron didn't get the text from me. He must have said, lose my number, Adam Schefter. I thought he would announce on the Get Up with Garret show that he will play for the New York Jets if the New York Jets can work it out with the Green Bay Packers and make a trade. So that was tremendous news. We'll come back to that. But really, I'm really excited about the New York Giants football team and how they've kicked off free agency because Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll have just come out of the gate and made a couple great moves. The biggest, most exciting news after we spoke last week about Daniel Jones re-signing, of course, was bringing on Pro Bowl tight end Darren Waller from the Las Vegas Raiders, okay? And this is a young man who I believe is a game changer for the New York Giants football club and, is a top 5 tight end. I think in the past 2-3 seasons, there's a handful of guys that have had the amount of, over 1,000 yards as consistent. And I think you're talking about, Greg Kittle and Travis Kelce and, Waller. And I think, he was a Pro Bowl player in, 2020 or 2021. I forget. He's had a couple injuries. I don't expect him to play 17 games. But this is a 6'6" athlete that I think is going to be an incredible target. Super fast, big hands, huge target for Daniel Jones. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Giants start using Bellinger and Waller and kind of this double tight end set, which you've seen in New England before, which Daboll certainly has a lot of experience there with Belichick. And, having Barkley, who got franchise tagged, and Jones, now you got like 4 guys you got to be really worried about running the ball, short little passes, right out the line of scrimmage there, 4 real threats. And then, of course, I think Waller's fast as can be. So, I don't know that the Giants are going to sign that wide receiver 1 that everyone's been talking about, like Hopkins or back in the day, Odell Beckham of the world. Maybe Slay got cut from Philadelphia. But if the Giants can't get a wide receiver 1, this guy being a huge target in the end zone, I mean, Travis Kelce was unstoppable, just unstoppable. And if this guy can be, 80% of Kelce, the Giants in the red zone will take their game way up. What do you think, Dougie? First reactions?
Absolutely. And it's great. Now we have 2 because, Bellinger was great. He was progressing very well. So now we got 2 like solid tight ends and to have them on the field at the same time. Now, we have a lot of options, but we're doing like, the pass run options, you know what I mean? So like, we
RPO, baby, RPO, run pass option, RPO.
Exactly. We could do a lot of those. A lot of possibilities.
I'm super excited about it because, if the linebackers and the defensive backs have to play closer to the line because you've got Barkley as a threat out of the backfield and 2 tight ends, that opens up later, further down the field where you could maybe take a chance and throw a bomb if you've got a receiver that we believe in. And I think to your point, Bellinger was really progressing beautifully. He had this strange, like poke to the eye rake, right? Old days at WWE. And he missed a lot of time, right? And I think he didn't get a fair shake. The one thing I want Giants fans to understand today, though, is getting a Pro Bowl tight end like this was a really, really good steal from Joe Schoen, our new general manager, because this is the pick that we got in return for giving up Kadarius Toney to the Super Bowl champs, the Chiefs. So if you think about it, Toney had a great Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. He ran back an 80-yard kick return that set them up. He had an incredible, I think, touchdown pass, or he was the one that was maybe fouled in that late penalty. He had a great game, but he wasn't doing a ton for us. And we basically got the draft pick, and then it was a 3rd-round draft pick, which now turned in. That's all we gave up, a 3rd-round draft pick. We have this Pro Bowler for 4 more years now at a reasonable price that we could afford out of the cap for literally a 3rd-round draft pick. Who do you think you're going to draft in the 3rd round that's going to be in the Pro Bowl next year? That's going to score 10 maybe 10 or 12 touchdowns. And the Giants have always had challenges in the red zone. Tom Coughlin used to call it the green zone because that's where we make the money, baby, the green zone. And so now the Giants have this kind of like, we don't settle for field goals mentality. We go for 2, we go for touchdowns. We play to win versus not to lose, which is kind of an old Giants mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about this pickup. I think if there's a number 1 receiver out there, oh boy, then look out. And I think the Giants are making a statement that they want to be in the Super Bowl within the next 3 years. And the Eagles are starting to fall apart because you can't pay everybody, and they're going to have to pay their quarterback who had a legendary Super Bowl, one of the best Super Bowls ever by a quarterback. And he's going to get his bag of money. And so I'm excited for next season. And maybe I can go out to Vegas and watch the Raiders. I think that'd be a cool game to see the Giants play the Raiders in Vegas, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, like, you think about it, like, what were the Raiders thinking? I don't know, but we'll find out.
I don't know. So a couple other smaller picks. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a linebacker that came in. They re-signed Shepard, who's been, a great leader on the team. I don't know, honestly. He's just had a couple horrible injuries, and I love giving the guy a shot, but I have no concept of how productive he'll be. But I'm wishing the best for him and his health, and hopefully this next year will be here. They also kept I think they kept their long snapper. Oh, the Scottish Hammer, their punter, Jamie Gillan, they kept. So the Giants have been really active. And I haven't heard a ton from the rest of the teams in the NFC East. The Cowboys are cutting Ezekiel Elliott, which I think plays into the conversation of you probably can't pay Barkley what he really wanted. Mm-hmm. It's just not a market for that. And the Eagles obviously had to make a lot of cuts financially. I haven't heard anything from the Commanders really. But the big other news is really the quarterback situation around the country. I mean, Jimmy G got signed. Obviously, Derek Carr was the first one. He went to the Saints. And then I guess Jimmy G went to the Raiders, which I just think is kind of funny. And then Lamar Jackson's still out there under that franchise tag with Baltimore, and people can talk to him. But we do expect Aaron Rodgers to go to the Jets. I think that'll happen. Interesting enough, he said he was 90% retired. Went into his darkness retreat, which was like 4 days, 3 nights, 4 days in a small little cabin in the middle of nowhere, literally in the dark. If you haven't heard about this, Google Aaron Rodgers darkness retreat. They bring him like a meal at 6:00, and that's it. No phones, no books, no lights. It's just meditating, sleeping, and it's supposed to clear your mind and clear your body. So he came out of there thinking retirement, and then he started to hear a lot of talk about Packers moving on from him, and he felt like, you know what, I can still play. He started working out. So I've never been a Jet fan, but I'm a fan of New York and I'm a fan of the NFL, and I would love to see the Jets at a high level and the Giants at a high level. It'll be great for the city and for just community. And I don't think the Jets will beat like the Chiefs or the Bills or the Bengals, but I think they're right there in the mix immediately with Aaron Rodgers. And so I think they absolutely could play for the Super Bowl or make it into the Super Bowl in the next 2 years here, which will, boy, that'll keep things interesting for the New York media. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. We'd love to have a Jet Giant Super Bowl.
Well, that would be
bets now because, remember my last year's bets, $10 bets were getting me like $4 or $5 grand. So bet now, Jet Giant Super Bowl, you might get like 10 G's out of that.
You are $10 rich, buddy. That's you. That's so funny. There was a cool new pair of Jordans I was thinking about getting. They actually had a bunch of green on them. They were like Jordan 4s, like pine green or something. Yeah. I was thinking because maybe the hedges, that would be a great grand opening gift, having a little bit of green for the hedges. So that made me think of you. And the other thing with Aaron Rodgers is Joe Namath said Aaron Rodgers could wear number 12, no problem. So we'll see what happens there. And it's tough, like I was watching the interview. It's a business, right? And he knows they drafted Jordan Love, and that's not Jordan's fault. He's a good kid and he deserves an opportunity. And but Aaron kept saying, like, the people that drafted me, Ted Thompson, they're not there anymore. It's a whole new crew. They, and I think Aaron's just pissed that like they weren't up front and said, look, here's our plan. Here's what we want to do. This is gonna be your last year. Because he had 2 back-to-back MVPs, they kind of couldn't get rid of him. Like, but I really think he thinks that this was a plan that was set in motion a few years ago, and they didn't really tell him about it till later. And I think he was offended by that. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. You know, I think he's going to go out there and play like crazy. And if he can win a Super Bowl in New York, man, you're a legend, and legends never die. So we'll see what happens.
Got some comments coming in.
Yeah, Green Bay media isn't anything like New York, absolutely, and neither is the pizza. But Rodgers is we'll see, Jeff. It's interesting. I think it's going to be totally different for him, but I also think he has a high level of confidence. He actually said on the podcast that he says he's debatable the greatest Packer of all time. He says, look, you can debate it. Brett Favre, Bart Starr, excuse me. Who's the guy with the long hair, the blonde hair? Clay Matthews. Yep. But he said what you can't debate is I'm the longest tenured Packer of all time. No one's played this many years in Green Bay. Can't debate it. And he'll go into the Hall of Fame as a Packer. I also think he wants to win. This looked kind of like Brett Favre went to the Jets, and it didn't really work out so well. But this is a different story, man. I really think the Jets are one piece away from being in the. Look, you have to make the playoffs, but I think this is a game changer for them. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen with Robert Griffin. What's wrong with me? Lamar Jackson, excuse me. He's negotiating himself. He wants like $200 million guaranteed. Look, if he gets that franchise tag, I think he'll make like $50 million or $35 million or $50 million guaranteed. So, something to be said about year by year if you're going to get 125% of the pay or whatever the number is. In real estate, we have month-to-month contracts often with a lease where, a tenant may not want to stay the whole year and they want to go to month-to-month, and sometimes you have to pay more for that because it's the flexibility. You don't know that someone's going to leave. So things are looking good with the Hedges, as you know, the family project. I'll be over there a little later today. They're almost done with all the amenity space and going through the apartments one by one. We're finalizing a lot of our pricing. We're almost there. I know our studio apartments are going to start at $1,975, and it's a big studio. It's equivalent to a one bedroom. I think it's in the 600 square foot, between 600 and 700 square foot. Mm-hmm. Beautiful view, washer, dryer, all the condo, quality amenities that you'd expect at the Hedges property. So we'll probably know the final 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom prices next week or so. But it's a very, it's like airlines, right? Things change every couple of days. Pricing can change based on inventory controls and demand and the time of year and promotions. I can say, without giving too much away, we have signed a letter of intent with a restaurateur who is going to develop a beautiful cafe at Hedges, which will be offering smoothies, paninis, grab and go sandwiches, acai bowls, gelato, and delicious coffees. I'm not going to say the name or who it is. We have not finalized the lease negotiations, but we have come to a business agreement on the letter of intent. So heard it here first on the Get Up with Garret show. We're super excited, and we expect them to open before the end of the year, probably sometime in the fall.
Nice.
And we'll be giving some more updates when things are, really final. And we're out there talking to other retailers. So if you're thinking about opening up a space in the area, maybe you're in Passaic County and maybe you're a, stretching company, massage, physical therapy, something that goes nice with the gym and health and wellness, shoot us an email, right? You have our email, Dougie. It's getupwithgarret@gmail.com, and let us know. We'd love to talk to you about opening at the Hedges. And, Planet Fitness is super busy, so you have a great partner there. So, Doug, we've got, speaking of what we're doing at Hedges, we have a really nice guest lined up today. Had the chance to connect with a couple of young men who, we know through my YPO group and friends of family and stuff, who are now out and have developed some new technologies that help multifamily sponsors and developers qualify residents as they apply for apartments. And anytime you can partner with companies that make your job easier and that you can qualify prospects quicker and put them into leases, and you also hear about some really cool features that they offer that I haven't heard from, that anyone else offers, using analytics and AI to predict certain likelihoods of renewal, et cetera, I think is really cool. So the company's called CityLine, right? CityLine.io, I think.
Yep.
Right, there it is. And we have some gentlemen in the green room. Are they ready for us?
Absolutely. Here we go.
All right, let's bring on Ryan. There's Ryan and Rohan. Good to see you guys.
How's it going?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Thanks for joining the show. Hope you enjoyed the green M&Ms and caviar in the green room. And
Of course.
as up and coming tech entrepreneurs, you guys are busy, so appreciate your time. So Ryan, why don't you just give us a little overview of CityLine? Give us kind of just the 30,000 view, and then maybe we'll run everyone through a demo and talk about it a little bit. How's that sound?
Perfect. Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it. We love getting up in the morning with Garret. CityLine is a web app that instantly verifies the identity, background, and financial credibility of any rental applicant for multifamily owners and operators. We really believe in making renting a 12 to 18-month apartment pretty much as fast and as easy as booking a hotel room. That's kind of the core of our mission here. Obviously, we cut down and eliminate the 13% of rental application fraud that exists out there that often leads directly to cases of back payment or eviction, which we think is a really neat feature. But like you mentioned, one of the things that we think is really cool about CityLine is the direction we're headed with predictive technology. Through our screening software, we're able to pull recurring financial data points about tenants once they accept the lease, which feeds a suite of financial products that do some really awesome things. So one of those tools that we're most excited about right now is our tenant early warning system, which alerts both a tenant as well as a property owner or operator if a tenant is at risk of back payment weeks, if not months, before it actually happens, which obviously helps everybody in the situation.
Wow.
So that's kind of the high level of what we're working on right now.
So what was the problem that you guys are trying to solve? How did this come about? Maybe Rohan, tell us, how you guys got together and put your heads together. Where did you kind of walk and see, what, there's a problem to solve here, and we think with our backgrounds we could help?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we all met at Cornell. Our third co-founder, also named Ryan, isn't here, but we all became friends at Cornell. And every summer, it's very typical to go into New York City, rent an apartment, and go through an internship for the summer. And every summer it'd be the same issue. It'd be going through this terrible application process, having very sensitive documents from both your parents who are acting as guarantors and yourself being exchanged over an email, and multiple delays in this weird process with a broker or a management company. And so, every year as we saw this issue, it became more apparent to us that there is a big problem out there. And, it doesn't seem like a solution for this would be that hard. And so I had finished up a entrepreneurship and innovation master's at USC. Ryan was finishing up a master's program at Oxford. And we were sort of in this limbo of like, do we go into the corporate world, or do we figure out a business that we really like and find a problem that we can address easily and, do things our own way? And so, we came back to New York City. We worked as brokers for a bit, because one thing I learned during my program is that, if you want to start an entrepreneurial venture, you really have to understand the problem to, at its core. And before you spend any money, just understand the problem better than anyone else. And so as brokers, we really saw that. We got, hands-on experience with this issue, and then went into the lab and built CityLine to streamline this whole process using automation, using a lot of different tools, and partnering with great companies like Plaid.
Rohan, I think that's awesome. I always tell the audience that if you're going to go forward and be an entrepreneur, obviously you have to be solving a problem, right? Everybody kind of knows that. But I think what you guys add is that's a really easy way without spending money, just by going and joining the company and becoming a broker and testing it out.
Totally.
Actually, my dad and uncle, before we got really heavy into commercial real estate, they were thinking of buying a commercial real estate brokerage near the Meadowlands, and they went and worked there for a year just to see what it was like. They had never done that before, and I don't think they liked it because they ended up not buying it. But which is a great story too, because it's important to learn what you like and what you don't like, right? So never be afraid. I always say to the audience also, never be afraid to take an internship, work for free. But in this case, you were actually becoming brokers where you could make income, but really you were kind of secretly also learning and listening, interviewing clients, right? Every developer you talk to, you'd say, hey, are you struggling with this issue? Is this a pain in the ass for you guys? What are you doing? So I think that's really great entrepreneurial advice. In the city now, I remember one of the really unique things about New York City rental real estate, and that is not my expertise, was the applicant had to pay the broker like a 1-month fee to rent an apartment. Has that gone away, or is that still consistent?
Oh no, that's super consistent. Yeah. So you pay that fee on top of obviously like an application fee, which is capped by the city. Which is good for
that at?
It's at $20.
Okay, well, that's obviously
it's reasonable.
If you can't afford $20, you shouldn't get a New York City apartment. I got
yeah, of course.
Because that's your dinner's going to cost $25. But,
exactly.
Okay, so the brokerage thing is still there. I always thought that was crazy because, like in typical commercial real estate, the landlord's going to pay the broker for the commission for bringing the retail tenant, for bringing the industrial tenant, the office tenant, whatever. But here, you go rent an apartment, you have to pay a fee. I think that's kind of funny, a little backwards, but all right, that's New York for you. So you figured out that there was this problem to solve. Did you go out and try to partner with somebody who was like a tech engineer or someone who was an expert? Or did you guys have the experience from, your grad programs that you could create kind of a basic app or some type of online service? Tell me how you kind of went on the technology engineering side.
Yeah, for sure. So our third co-founder, another Ryan,
he has only have one Ryan on at a time. That's the rule.
Exactly, right. He has some technical experience, so is currently the leader of our tech side of things. We do bring on some outside contractors to just help us out because obviously it is a heavy lift, the tool that we're building and have built. We were also really lucky to get into ERA, which is New York's top tech accelerator. So cool. We spent May until October of this past year working with them. They gave us a ton of mentorship. We were able to finish the tool and begin testing with their support. And that was obviously like a very
something you had to pay? Did you have to pay to get into the ERA? What is that?
No, so we applied. It's a real competitive application process, a whole bunch of interviews. But we were fortunate enough to get in. Would highly recommend if there are any founders out there tuning in to apply to ERA. Unbelievable program.
We had a guest on the show a few months ago, Juan Maldonado, and he had launched a company where it was kind of like Apple Pay and Western Union for other countries. And he went through a similar out in Silicon Valley, a similar type of program. I forget the name. It's really
Y Combinator, maybe.
Yeah. Y.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I just can't say enough about those types of programs if you can get in or get the grant or afford it, of course, because the people you're surrounded by who have either gone through it or are doing it and are ahead of you, not only do they become mentors, but their networks become,
totally.
your networks, which I always say become your net worth, because, they're talking to other investors and they're talking to lawyers and they're talking to buyers and sellers and financiers, and it goes quick, and like you guys know, everything in business is about, who you trust, who you like, super important. So that was how long was that program, the ERA program, Ryan?
So it was 4 months over the summer, which was great, kind of the perfect amount of time to accelerate your business. No wonder it's called an accelerator. And then they gave us office space. We still work with them on a regular basis to kind of as we moved through testing and into go to market. They continue to be a really valuable support network for us.
I love it. I love the idea. I'd love to learn more if there's other accelerator type things that are commercial real estate driven. And I love trying to help young commercial real estate executives. And I know there's a lot of tech driven programs like that. But that'd be interesting to see if there's people that could, need help in propping up deals and getting them going on the commercial real estate side. So, all right. So once you got this thing going, then what did you do? Did you start showing it to landlords and kind of friends and family that your parents' friends own a fourplex, or how did you kind of start getting the word out here?
Yeah, so we actually went live with CityLine just, I guess, about 6 weeks ago now. So we're really just kind of starting out our first big marketing push. We started out with 4 customer personas that we built out, and the name of the game for any tech startup is testing, right? You test every little thing, whether it's the product side of things, whether it's the marketing side of things, et cetera, et cetera. So we deployed a pretty rigorous email and drip campaign, is what it's called in the industry. And we've tested out these 4 customer personas and been able to really hone in on what we think is going to be the most effective beachhead for us. That's, your boutique multifamily investor, folks who really view their role as an asset manager rather than a pure operator.
Yeah.
And we've been aggressively going after this segment of the market, not only in New York City, where we know the space well, but in a couple other locations across the country that have some exciting features to the market that we think would do well with our product.
Hey, Dougie, this is like a Get Up with Garret exclusive. These guys have been live for 6 weeks. I mean, we are bringing the new cutting edge developments in real estate property tech to our audience exclusively here on Get Up with Garret.
Really, I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes back here.
Appreciate it. So I know we have some video demos we can show that are not too long. They're pretty quick. And I'll let Dougie cue them up, and gentlemen, you guys can kind of talk. I don't think there's any music, right? You'll talk over it.
Yeah, I'll talk through them. Perfect.
Going on it. So when Dougie gets the right one going here.
Yeah, so this is what it looks like from the tenant side of things, right? Okay. So this is the application. It is super fast. Anyone that's applied for an apartment in New York nowadays knows that the process can take anywhere from 2 days to 5 days. A lot of manual document uploads, all stuff. And right now is the entirety of the application, right? So you pay an application fee. Here's our beautiful integration with Plaid. You put in some of your bank account information. Anyone who's used like Venmo or Zelle is really familiar with this interface, so people are quite comfortable with it. They need to, the only thing that we can't pull from a database is whether or not you have a pet, which is actually the first thing that you saw.
I got 2. I got 2, Ryan. Daisy and Charlie.
Oh, that's cute. We were hoping to find a way to tap into that, but that's the only thing you have to manually submit. But otherwise, that's it. I've been talking for the last 30 seconds, just like that.
I did it. It's like that was a real. I mean, I know that was a mock-up, but that's how fast it is.
Yep, that's how fast it is. Now you are submitted for your application. The property owner on the other side of things, as we'll show you in a second with the other video, is able to set granular parameters for credit, criminal, income, eviction, and identity information for auto accept, auto reject features.
Right.
So if it matches up, instant fit, which we think is awesome.
Don't start the second one yet. Regarding you kept saying Plaid integration. I understand what that is. So some of the audience may not know what that is. Could you just give a quick overview on that?
Yeah. So in like the highest terms, Plaid is an awesome fintech, back end system. They're a great company. They have access to all sorts of different data sets and all sorts of different financial products. And our ability to work with Plaid gives us access to income verification. So we actually were working with Plaid a couple months ago when they were sandboxing their income verification API. We were the first company to work with them, or one of the first, which was really cool, and one of the first to deploy the products, certainly in this multifamily residential space.
Wow, that's awesome. So Plaid's like a third-party verification company that can basically safely and securely look at your checking account or your credit cards or whatever. You've given them permission to do it and kind of send that back to you guys with some type of scoring, right? Or verification.
Exactly. Yeah.
And people generally feel comfortable with that. Interesting. I think it's tough in some cases. There's certain demographics that they're like, I don't really want to put in my account number for my Chase Bank or my TD Bank or my Bank of America. Certainly not my Silicon Valley bank account. I don't want to give you that. I mean, that's worse these days. All right, so let's see the other video. Let's see this is the landlord.
So this is the owner. Yeah, this is the owner operator side of things.
That's what I'm going to see at Edges. Let's see. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly. So this is your portfolio, right? You have all your units up. It's, we think, a really beautiful display. A lot of thought has gone into the UX UI design of the platform. This is what happens once you enter a property. You can see all your different units. You can click on a unit. Here's your dashboard where you can actually see the applicants that have applied for that unit. If you click on any of those particular tabs, you get a full PDF report, the most detailed understanding of that tenant. This is where you can edit unit information. We syndicate it directly onto different listing sites. So once you maybe add a picture or update a picture there, it'll go directly onto StreetEasy or apartments.com or something like that.
Sure.
This is where you invite a new applicant, right? So, you just put in their phone number, press submit, and the application is sent.
Okay, so I'm not showing them this, but it's in my hand on my mobile app or whatever, the iOS and Safari, and then I'm going to plug in, okay, John Smith, apartment 2A, here's your 917, here's your phone number. It'll then text them. They'll then receive it on a link, click on it. Now they're into the tenant side, like what you showed me earlier.
Exactly. And right here,
is it a mobile app or is it like a web page going to?
Yeah, so it's both mobile and desktop compatible, which we think is awesome. And right here, what you're seeing is actually how you actually manage those different applications. So you can click on each and any one of those combinations. You can get the information about the tenant, get the information about the guarantor. You can set those parameters that I was talking about before.
On the back end. Got it. By the way, this is a good time, Dougie. I should remind everyone, we are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. So if you have questions for these young men in terms of what it's like to be an entrepreneur, what it's like to be having a startup company, working in commercial real estate, prop tech, fintech, we are live. We can answer them down below, or send us an email and I'll get back to you. And certainly, we'll share their contact info. But this is pretty cool. So that's kind of the first part of the business, which I know is solving a problem. Let's talk about the second part, which I think is really a bigger game changer that is people aren't doing and trying to solve a problem that a landlord hasn't even thought about yet. Although maybe at night they're not sleeping so well thinking about it. You're solving a problem. And so let's talk a little bit about that. Tell me about that second part.
Yeah, for sure. So we've always believed at Cityline that transparency, financial transparency between tenants and between owners/operators is essential for the success of both entities, right? The tenants want to be comfortable, happy, living in the space. They want to know that they can afford it. And the owners want to be able to sleep at night. They don't want to have to worry about back payments, evictions. Frankly, nowadays, there's kind of an eviction back payment crisis that exists in the country. So a lot of thought on our end went into, hey, how can we use the data that we're capturing right off the bat in this really cool fast screening tool, and how can we leverage it to help both sides of the equation? So that's what we're working on right now. When a tenant signs up for Cityline for the very first time, they consent to having some pieces of financial information pulled on a quarterly basis throughout their tenancy, which enables us to do a lot of really cool predictive intelligence, both for the owner operator as well as the tenant, to alert both parties, if they're having difficulties, making rent. We have a cool tool that we're working on also called an optimized rent renewal tool that can algorithmically adjust rates and provide kind of a risk assessor of sorts to owners as they change rates across their portfolio. We're trying to build out a cool applicant bidding tool. I know in New York City, when there's like an open house, for example, for an apartment, you have like 30 people in the apartment at the same time. Bidding can be like a real mess, but it would be really cool, we think, if tenants went in all with their phones, entered their Cityline accounts, and there was, some sort of a bidding feature or functionality right on the tool. Yeah, exactly. So tools of this sort that leverage the data that we've built out to, increase the experience, increase the speed, and frankly, protect both sides of the equation from a situation that nobody wants, which is
that's awesome. I want the audience to understand really what's going on here is this is cutting edge, because as a landlord, we are always the last to know when there's a problem, right? If you can't make rent and you're going to be either closing your business or moving out, that's going to cost us a lot of money, right? You're talking about potentially court fees and issues if there's an eviction. Then you're talking about renovation, right? Repainting, turning back the unit to what it previously looked like, right? Then you're talking about, depending on the type of business, a potential commission. And there may even be downtime and marketing costs in finding a new tenant. So all those things happen, and they're very hard to budget for because you just don't know. A lot of times you'll put in certain numbers just as kind of plugs but there's a big variance to that stuff, month by month, year by year. So what these guys are trying to do is help the landlord be more, kind of predict what's going on in terms of following the resident a little bit longer with their full transparent permission, so we can predict if they're going to get behind on rent, default, move away in the middle of the night. Those things, we can then get in front of those issues, right? And maybe approach them and say, hey, I understand you lost your job. Can we work something out with you for the next 3 months
Exactly.
so we're not caught from behind? Because that's expensive for me, and we want to be a good landlord and be a good neighbor and help you get back on your feet. Or look, in many cases, in full transparency, if they're paying $1,000 a month and the rent's $3,000 now, you got a big problem, right? I shouldn't be holding on to a tenant for another year like that under market.
Right.
Then it's not maximizing what it's supposed to be. So to get a little peekaboo into those things early, I think is really cutting edge and is going to appeal to a lot of my landlord colleagues. So hats off to you guys. That's such a cool kind of a cool trend. I haven't seen anything like that.
No, we appreciate it. Yeah. And so, right now, we are live with owners in New York, some owners in South Carolina, North Carolina, and we're hoping to sign on a couple more in the Midwest and actually in Hawaii in the next couple of weeks here.
Is that something, Ryan? Do you think you'll be able to bring that to companies and corporations, or do you, for instance, have Tuesday Morning went bankrupt on me. We renegotiated the lease. They ended up staying another year. Then they went bankrupt again and finally closed my store. Maybe you guys could have given me a little heads up that it was very likely that they were going to go bankrupt again, or that, I think I have 2 years here, Garrett. You can kind of lease around them and put away some money for a couple of years for renovations.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where our heads kind of are pointed in that direction. Rule number one, like I mentioned in startups, is always test. Rule number two probably would be make sure you focus on a very nuanced and specific market to start with. Build, test, make sure you kill it there, and then expand out to all the different sorts of spaces that you plan on. And certainly, industrials, more, commercial sort of spaces is where we'd like to head next.
So as we get close to finishing up, I just want to understand any major challenges that you guys went through as being entrepreneurs, startup. Obviously financing is a tough window right now. Can you talk about some of the big roadblocks that you've had to get over as young entrepreneurs in this field for the audience?
Yeah, I would say, in the beginning, it's always tricky to figure out who your customer is, particularly for fintech and prop tech companies. There's so many different folks involved in different parts of the equation. So, in the beginning, for example, we were trying to do, we were taking a D2C approach. We were trying to get as many tenants using the site as possible, but we ran into the chicken and egg dilemma of not actually having units on the site. So then we had to reposition our marketing, our branding, our products to the B2B side of things so that we could actually sell to owners and landlords, had to build out features for that. So understanding your customer and your target customer, I think for us has been a real journey and a learning experience. I would say another thing that is kind of right now a hurdle that we're pushing through is integrating with some of the big guys out there.
Sure.
For us, we don't want to be a tool that makes any property owner or operator displace their existing tech stack, right? Mm-hmm. We want, if you're using Yardi, for example, as your property management software, exactly. We want you to keep using that because we know that you love it. So what we're doing on our end is going through an integration process with all of the big property management softwares, Appfolio, Yardi, Entrata, Buildium, RealPage, et cetera. And we are making sure that if you're using them, you can also use CityLine, no added charge.
Yeah,
and it's super easy.
I think
definitely.
Rohan, I think that's critical, right? Like how are you going to approach these big groups and say, hey, by the way, give me a shot and get rid of kind of some of the industry standards? You got to kind of quietly just integrate, right? You got to figure that out. It'll work, right?
Absolutely. And, luckily there's actually a lot of cool companies that help guide, new innovative ideas and integrate directly into multiple, large property management software.
Right. So they share with you. They're open to helping you figure it out because it ultimately helps them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about creating the best product for your customer.
And then the other thing, Rohan, is I think you were telling me on our other call, this is free right now for the landlord side, right? It's not costing me any money.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So we push that cost to the application or to the applicants that are applying to your unit. And, you know, as we build out some of these, you know, financial tools,
Right.
we'll eventually, you know, be charging landowners for those tools. But as of
Sure.
now, we're not charging.
Those are different. Absolutely. That's exciting, guys. I'm super proud of you guys, and thankful that we had a chance to connect. And, you know, I love connecting with up and coming entrepreneurs and supporting anyone I can, especially YPO brotherhood and family, you know, is such a great thing. And anything I can ever do for you guys, don't be strangers, stay in touch, and we'll see how we can grow this. And I'll be looking out for you. Hopefully we'll be hearing about a big exit in a couple of years, you know.
Fingers crossed.
You know, we'll be sitting courtside at the Warriors together, maybe.
There we go.
All right, Doug, do you have any other questions?
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah,
We
guys?
really appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Doug, any other questions for them? We think they're good.
Sure. If you guys want to find them, cityline.io right there at the bottom.
There it is. Check out Cityline, especially in New York City, when it's uber competitive to figure out how to rent an apartment. And I think you'll come off great to landlords knowing that you're already registered and signed up on Cityline, and you're using the latest technologies to help prevent fraud, and of course have a really solid financial package when you submit your application. So good for you guys. Have a great rest of the weekend, guys. Okay.
Alrighty.
You too.
Enjoy
it.